In a room lit softly by candlelight, Chris Hughes finally shares a special moment with his longtime crush, Brittany Van Horn. But instead of feeling happy, he slowly starts to feel let down. His dream has come true, but only because his mom, Beverly, got involved. Sensing something is off, Beverly quickly wakes him up. It turns out it was all just a dream. Feeling awkward, Chris gets up to start his day and begins gathering the newspapers he's supposed to deliver. As he steps outside, he notices the neighbor's dog has peed on them, which makes him frustrated. Things get worse when the neighbor accidentally sprays him with a garden hose, soaking his clothes. Back at home, his strict dad, Carl, tells him to wear his helmet while delivering papers. He says it's for his own good. Chris complains because he doesn't like how it looks, but his dad warns him that he won't get to keep the money if he doesn't follow the rules. Instead of supporting Chris, his older brother Danny just laughs at his bad luck. While delivering newspapers, Chris gets teased by the neighborhood kids because of his helmet. When he arrives at Zinnia High School, he runs into Kate, his partner on the school newspaper. Kate likes Chris, but he doesn't seem to feel the same way. She's upset that he's late, but he tries to cheer her up by saying he finished their article. Their friendship is a bit rocky. Kate tells him she wants to go to the spring fling dance with him, but Chris says no. He plans to ask Brittany instead. Even though Kate is hurt, she stays calm and respects his choice. Later in math class, Chris starts daydreaming about Brittany. Lost in thought, he says something out loud without realizing it. Something strange that makes the whole class stare at him. Embarrassed but trying to play it cool, he decides to ask Brittany out. She turns him down right away, clearly annoyed. At lunch, Chris talks to his friends about throwing a party, but before they can get far, a group of varsity athletes led by Hudson Reed shows up and interrupts them. Chris feels jealous of Hudson because he's popular and dating Brittany. Tired of feeling like an outsider, Chris tells his friends that throwing a party might help them become more liked at school. Scooter points out that they'll need a lot of drinks to make it a real party, and he's not sure how they'll get them. Chris just smiles, hinting that he plans to sneak some from his family's grocery store. Later, Brittany and her group walk into the Hughes store, catching Chris off guard. He's too nervous to talk, so Adam jumps in and asks if she'll come to their party. Brittany says no and calls them lame, which makes the whole group feel discouraged. That night, Chris and his friends wait at the house, hoping people will show up, but no one does. The place stays quiet, and the mood turns gloomy. Chris feels embarrassed and disappointed. Just when they're about to give up, Murphy sees someone walking toward the house. Excited, he tells everyone to turn up the music and act like they're already having the best party ever. Kate walks in, expecting to see a lively party. She's disappointed to find the place almost empty. Feeling awkward, she starts to leave, but Chris follows her outside, hoping she'll stay a bit longer. Kate says she needs to head home, so Chris simply thanks her for coming. Before she walks away, he asks if she would be his date for the spring fling. To his surprise, Kate smiles and says yes. The next night, Chris's dad, Carl, asks how his weekend went. Chris lies, saying he spent it working at their store, but Carl doesn't believe him. He says he found items missing from the inventory and knows Chris took some drinks without permission. Caught, Chris admits he threw a party. Carl gets upset and grounds him. Just then, the doorbell rings. Chris offers to answer it, hoping to escape the tense moment. At the door, a man in a suit tells Chris that his real parents have passed away. Confused, Chris says that's impossible. He just had dinner with them. The man explains that he means Chris's biological parents, who died in an accident. He introduces himself as Michael Hunt, the lawyer for the Mack family. He says there will be a will reading in Los Angeles and that Chris should attend. Chris doesn't believe a word and shuts the door. Later, in Chris's room, Carl finally tells him the truth. His birth parents worked in a troubled part of town. His birth mother was a performer, and his father worked as security. Beverly explains they kept this from him, afraid it would affect how he saw himself. The next day, Chris and his friend Adam meet Brooks, their driver. They're surprised and excited to see that they'll be riding in a limousine. Later, at the lawyer's office, Michael tells Chris that he has inherited $87 million from his birth parents. Along with the money, he is now the new owner of their magazine company called Heaven. Chris is thrilled by the news and feels like he's been given a huge gift. Before ending the meeting, Michael hands Chris a document to sign. Adam gets nervous and tells Chris they should talk to a lawyer first to make sure everything is legal. Michael reminds them that he is a lawyer, which makes Adam unsure. Still worried, Adam suggests they go to the police, but then quickly changes his mind, not wanting to cause trouble. After Chris signs the papers, Michael secretly contacts someone and happily says that their plan to trick Chris is working. Soon after, Chris and Adam arrive at the Mack family mansion. A group of women greets them at the door, smiling and welcoming them in. One of them rushes up to Chris, looking closely at him. He's confused by how friendly she is, but Brooks explains that she is Ms. Harding, his father's longtime assistant. Ms. Harding leads them upstairs, where a video message from Chris's birth parents is ready to play. In the video, Peter and Honey Mack talk warmly about their son. They say they love him very much, even though they've been apart. They explain they had to give him up for adoption because they didn't have enough money at the time. Now that they've built a successful company, they believe Chris is ready to take over and carry on their legacy. Suddenly, a man bursts into the room and demands to know who Chris is. Nervously, Chris raises his hands. The man smiles and gives him a hug. Afterward, he introduces himself as Duncan Mack, Chris's uncle. He tells Chris he's here to help him run the family business. Later that day, Duncan holds a press conference to introduce Chris as the new owner of Heaven magazine. During the event, a reporter asks Chris if he has a girlfriend. Before Chris can answer, Adam jumps in and says that Chris is dating Brittany. When her name is shouted, the reporter assumes it's an official announcement. Duncan then uses the moment to introduce the magazine's featured model of the month, Alyssa Bauer. The crowd cheers as she walks to the stage and greets Chris with a quick kiss. While he's still surprised, Alyssa tells everyone she'll be supporting him and promotes the new issue. At lunch, Beverly and Carl are shocked to learn their son is now in charge of a well-known magazine, which goes against their values. Danny, on the other hand, is jealous of Chris's sudden fame. Meanwhile, Brittany sees the attention Chris is getting as an opportunity to boost her own status. At the welcome party, Chris slips into the study to get away from the noisy crowd. To his surprise, he runs into one of the magazine's models. She seems to like him right away and tries to flirt, but Chris feels too shy and unsure, so nothing happens. The next day, at the mansion's tennis court, Duncan vents his frustration to the family lawyer. He's upset that Chris inherited the company instead of him. Behind Duncan, Michael quietly suggests a plan. If Chris fails to finish the next magazine issue on time, they can call a board meeting. If that happens, Chris could lose his position, and Duncan might take over. Soon, Duncan puts the plan into action. He tells Chris that he needs to prepare the next issue before the board meeting. Feeling overwhelmed, Chris asks Duncan to take care of it instead. Duncan, annoyed, reminds him that it's his job now as the owner. Just then, their housekeeper, Consuelo, walks in and says Kate is calling for Chris. On the phone, Kate tells him she wants to interview him for the school paper. He agrees, and she reminds him about their upcoming date at the spring fling. He says he'll be there, but then gets distracted by two models walking by. Curious, he asks what the models are doing at the mansion. He's told they live there to help promote the magazine. Right after, Adam shows up and starts talking about how smart Peter Mack was in building the company. Alyssa invites Chris and Adam to join her by the pool. Adam says yes right away, but Chris turns her down because he still has work to finish. Heather reminds him that as the boss, he can take a break if he wants to. Later that day, Chris and Adam relax in the jacuzzi with Alyssa and Heather. That night, Alyssa visits Chris in his room. She's worried that he might be feeling overwhelmed with all the changes in his life. When she offers to stay and keep him company, Chris misunderstands and thinks she's trying to be romantic. She gently turns him down and explains that she's just someone he looks up to, and he deserves someone who truly cares for him. Meanwhile, by the pool, Adam tries to impress Heather, but she turns him down and says she's more interested in Chris. The next morning, Brooks notices Chris looking stressed and asks where Duncan is. When he hears that Duncan went to a board meeting without him, Brooks becomes concerned. He warns Chris to be careful. His uncle and the lawyer might be working against him. That evening, Heather tries to charm Chris for money, but he refuses. At the spring fling, Chris arrives by helicopter with models, stealing the spotlight. His new fame makes him ignore the friends who supported him before. The next morning, Danny and Carl are surprised to find Alyssa using their bathroom. Carl confronts Chris, who says he's helping the models stay since the event is in Ohio. At Duncan's office, Ms. Harding tells him the board sent a package. Duncan offers to deliver it to Chris, and after some hesitation, she agrees. At school, Kate catches Brittany asking fans for money and scolds her for exploiting Chris, but Brittany ignores her. Kate then reminds Chris about an interview, but he refuses and gets kicked off the school publication. Chris retorts that her threats don't matter. He could buy the school, even her. The next day, Adam tells Chris Ms. Harding left messages, but Chris ignores them, thinking it's just paperwork for Duncan or Michael. At Beverly's birthday dinner, Carl complains about the bill. Chris offers to pay, but his credit card is declined, so Carl covers it. Later, at Brittany's, Chris hopes for a good time, but finds a camera crew shooting test photos for Heaven magazine. Feeling used, he leaves frustrated. The next day, Chris lashes out at his team over the magazine's troubles. Adam tries to talk, but Chris, upset about his frozen bank account and canceled issue, says money is all that matters now, hurting Adam deeply. Adam leaves Chris, calling him selfish. After class, Hudson attacks Chris over his girlfriend, and though a crowd watches, only Brooks steps in to stop it. At home, Chris is shocked when Duncan and Michael arrive, making him sign papers that give Duncan control and take Chris's money. Later, Brooks gives Chris a gift from his late parents, a photo book that inspires him to make things right. The next day at school, feeling invisible and rejected, Chris looks for Kate in the journalism room but only finds her article, which he begins to read. Chris learns that while he thinks poorly of himself, Kate thinks highly of him. Realizing his pride hurt her, he feels sorry. When Kate shows up, he apologizes for treating her badly and admits money and power made him forget those who care, especially her. He asks Kate to help remake Angels magazine to take back his company from his uncle. Though hesitant, Kate agrees after Chris promises her a chance to speak about what matters to her. They share a meaningful kiss. The next day, Chris apologizes to his friends for ignoring them while chasing popularity, and they forgive him. He also apologizes to his adoptive parents, who hope he grows into a responsible store owner. Chris then calls Elisa to help bring the Angels to his city, and she agrees. Meanwhile, Consuelo gives proof that Duncan is stealing money to Ms. Harding, and Brooks passes the evidence to Chris, giving him hope. Together, Chris, Kate, his friends, and the Angels work to finish the latest issue of Heaven magazine. The next day, Chris exposes his uncle's plan to sell the company. Duncan denies it, but Chris shows proof of theft. Ms. Harding says she will help since she owns many shares. Brooks also reveals he is a stockholder but stays as a bodyguard. Duncan tries to blame Chris for a late magazine issue, but Chris's family and friends arrive to support him. Chris shows the new magazine copies to the board, proving it's on time and under budget. Brooks stops Michael from arguing. The stockholders vote Chris back as chairman. He chooses Brooks and Ms. Harding to run the company until he finishes college. Chris then kisses Kate, and they start dating.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay connected with us.